Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Basketball Club International's Courtside Live. I'm your host, Clark Kellogg. BCI CSL is a series of real-time online interactive public events that connect professional basketball players to kids and fans around the world. This event features unprecedented access to players about both the practical and spiritual aspects of life in the pros. A special thanks to Athletes in Action for partnering with us on this CSL event. You can check out their website, www.athletesinaction.org. We're happy to host this BCI Courtside Live via Facebook Live using Blue Jeans on social. So obviously this is a really fun time of the year for anybody that's a basketball fan, whether you're looking forward to the festivities of NBA All-Star Weekend in Los Angeles or really ramping up for the stretch run of the college basketball season as the calendar moves through February and turns towards the madness of March. I'm looking forward to this year's All-Star game, a little different format in how the teams were selected, and I'm hoping it leads to a more competitive All-Star game on Sunday. Time will tell if that's the case or not, but an exciting weekend. And I recall back in the early 80s when I was wearing a Pacers uniform, never played in an All-Star game, but had a chance to witness a number of them and play against All-Stars during that time. And was always an exciting weekend to celebrate the great game at the highest level. And so I'm very much looking forward to that. It's time now. I'm really excited about our participants who have taken some time out of their schedules to join us tonight, and I'd like to give you all an opportunity to meet our participants tonight. Anthony Tolliver grew up playing basketball and dreaming of being the next Michael Jordan. I don't know if that's his words or just part of his bio, but nonetheless, practiced harder, trained longer, and put all his effort and time into perfecting his skills and fine-tuning his talent. Spent his college days as a Creighton Blue Jay. He broke the 1,000-point mark for his career in his final collegiate game, actually against Nevada in the NCAA tournament first round. His pro career started in 2007 with the Iowa Energy of the NBA Developmental League, now called the G League, before going abroad to Germany. And then following a short stint overseas, was signed by the Spurs in 2008, and now is in his ninth season. I think has played for 8 teams in his 9 years as an NBA player and has really done an outstanding job wherever he's been. Ken Johnson played his college basketball at the Ohio State University. Also happens to be my alma mater, so I'm very familiar with Ken. He was there from 97 to 2001, was a shot blocking machine, actually still holds the Big Ten and Ohio State records for career block shots. In the NBA draft in 2001, played in the NBA, CBA, NBBL, and also in Europe for 9 years. After retirement in 2010, he became a substitute teacher for 6 years. His heart and passion has always been working with kids, and he prides himself on living by the motto, "My life has taken many unexpected turns, but I found God to be closer than ever before through my weaknesses." And then finally, our last panelist, Lamone M. Lampley, played at DePaul University in 1986. Graduate of DePaul, was a second-round draft choice by the Seattle Sonics in 1986. Played professional basketball in Europe in the late 90s and afterwards returned to his alma mater, where he became the director of development for athletics. Following over a decade working with his alma mater, the DePaul Blue Demons, Lamone sought out his passion and started a nonprofit organization called, I want to say MOCCA, but it's MOCCHA, Men of Color Connected for Higher Achievement. Started that organization in March of 2015. The mission of the organization is to mentor and teach life skills to at-risk young men from youth to adulthood, while offering them opportunities to succeed academically, socially, and emotionally in urban Chicago, with the goal of expanding to other cities in America. So with that, Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you all for being here. Ken, Lamone, and Anthony, you've been a regular on BC Live events in the past, but we never take for granted your participation, and welcome to each of you. I'd like to start with Lamone, since he was our last panelist introduced. Very interested to hear a little bit more about, do you call it mocha, maca? How do you refer to it? Okay. Tell us a little bit more about how it started and um, how it's been going in the 3 years that you've been underway.
Lamont, looks like you're muted.
I can't hear him.
Yeah, I can't either.
Go ahead and try now.
Oh,
Yeah, I think the microphone itself is muted.
well, while we try to get Lamont squared away, why don't I go to you, Anthony? Are you there? Are you able to hear me? And
Yeah,
can we hear you?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
Terrific. Terrific. Well, talk a little bit about your journey, Anthony. I mean, you've been in the NBA now for 9 seasons. You've seen multiple teams. Give the listeners out there just a sense of your journey and how you've been able to persevere and excel as a pro basketball player.
Yeah, perseverance is definitely the theme of my basketball career so far, especially my professional career. Um, I especially at the beginning of my career, there was one thing that happened a lot, and it was change, and a lot of being told that I wasn't good enough. And so, at the beginning, it wore on me a little bit, as a person, as a player, but just having my faith, being my backbone and being the thing that I, put everything, that's my base, that's my rock, so it really allowed me to even have whenever teams would say, hey, you're good, but not good enough to stay with us, or, maybe you'd fit on better with a different team. It really, it didn't really phase me. I knew what God put in my heart. I knew what I was meant to do, and that was to play at the highest level. And so, yeah, I mean, my journey was filled with, lots of ups and downs, and, got cut by many different teams at the beginning of my career, but was able to persevere and get through. And now, like you said, it's been 9 full seasons, and this is my 10th year, and it's been unbelievable.
Talk about your development as a player as you were going through your journey and were being let go by teams, re-signed. What did you work on in terms of your basketball skills that allowed you to continue to have opportunities going forward?
But when I first got into the NBA, it wasn't really a stretch four league yet. Stretch four was kind of some teams had them, some teams didn't. There was most teams were still trying to load up on 7-footers and trying to match up with Pau Gasol and Andrew Bynum. Have two 7-footers, two kind of traditional bigs, and so me being 6'8", 6'9", I was kind of an outlier and someone who people were like, well, is he a 4? Is he a 3? What are you, right? And so I was kind of a tweener. And so I would say kind of when I first got into the league, that was kind of the beginning of where every team decided, what, we need a stretch four. And not only that, but some teams started going almost exclusively to stretch fours. And since then, since the beginning of my career till now, the game has completely changed. And, now it's, if you're a 4-man and you can't shoot three, something's wrong because of the analytics and everything else, how it's gone. Now I fit in perfectly.
Did
What
you
I
always
do.
have the 3-point shot? Did you have the 3-point shot? I saw your numbers at Creighton. which were pretty
Yeah,
good. But
not
talk
yeah,
about the
not
3-point
many.
shot in college versus the NBA for you.
Right. So I go back to high school. High school, I actually led my high school, which we were top 12 team in the country. I led my high school in 3-point percentage, um, but I didn't shoot it. I shot a set shot, not a jump shot, just complete like a Sam Perkins shot. I know everybody here
Oh,
knows who
okay.
Sam Perkins is. So it was very similar to a Sam Perkins shot. Just kind of flicked it up there, but I led the team in 3-point percentage. Fast forward to college, I was the biggest guy on the team, so they stuck me on the block, and I had to, secure the paint. And so, I was down there guarding 5 men. I was down there shooting jump hooks, and I was down there blocking shots and just securing the paint. And so, whenever I came out, in my draft, they didn't view me as a shooter or a perimeter player. They viewed me as a
Hmm.
undersized five. So when I showed them that I could, guard some guards and when I showed them I could shoot, over the first few years, I would shoot decent at my first few years. I wasn't a great shooter. But once once I got cut from the Cavs, Mike Brown told me, and I'll never forget this. Mike Brown said, "Hey, if you become a knockdown 3-point shooter, you will have a 10-year plus career in this league." He said, "There's
Wow.
no doubt about it." He those were his exact words. And now, like going on my 10th year,
Mm.
I would like to think that I've become a knockdown shooter, and my percentages have been pretty darn good, and I'm shooting pretty much a career best, right now, as I've ever have. So,
Wow.
I don't, hopefully that 10 plus years continues to, keep going.
Good deal. Good deal. I think we've got Lamont back. Are you back, Lamont? Oh, I'm still having tough time hearing him. Hello?
Hey, Lamont, real quickly, go ahead and either unplug your headset and then plug it back in, or just take it out altogether and we'll use the original setup we had.
All
There we
right.
go.
We
Looks like
still
I'm
okay.
How
having
about
Let's.
the
now?
audio. There we go.
Oh,
Yep.
there he is. All right. Well,
Okay.
welcome.
All right.
I've seen you for
Welcome
the
back.
time. I've seen you since we've come on live, Lamont, and glad that we can hear you now.
Okay.
Glad
A little
to hear
technical
you. Yeah.
problems, but glad to be back.
Yeah. We're glad to have you. If you would tell us a little bit about now. Do you refer to your organization as MOCA?
That is it. That's how you pronounce it. It's pronounced
Okay.
Mocha.
Okay.
Yep.
MOCA.
So
Tell us about MOCA.
Mocha organically came out of, I actually was working on my master's degree at DePaul University. And as a result, doing a lot of research work, specifically about young African Americans in urban areas. And so as a result, I had my professor call me one day and said, "We really need to meet." And I thought something was really wrong. And she was like, "No, just the contrary." She said, "It seems like all the research that you're doing, towards your degree, your master's degree, what are you looking to do after you finish with the degree?" I said, "Well, basically, I just wanted to have another degree on my resume in the event that I transition from DePaul at some point." And she was like, "No, no, I think you should consider starting a non-for-profit." And basically, at that time, my work schedule was pretty hectic. So I told her, "Not at this time. I don't really think that's going to be a good opportunity for me at this point." So then she said, "Well, I'm so impressed with the work that you're doing and that you need to start this non for profit that if you start this non for profit, we'll actually give you college credit towards your degree." So she pretty much pulled my arm to go ahead and do it. And so I started it pretty much on a part time basis. And then from that point, I had a gentleman named Steve Sarowitz, located here in Chicago, was really impressed with some of the work that I was doing and offered me an opportunity actually to go full time with the organization. And so it's been going now about 3 years. We've grown. Primarily, we work in an area in Chicago called Bronzeville, and we really try to engage our young men about the opportunities of being successful, and that includes mentoring, teaching life skills. We do financial literacy tours, we do collegiate tours. So there's a litany of things we do with the group that we have. And so it's just been a blessing for me to be able to operate in that space because I think it's sorely needed, not just here in Chicago, but across the country.
What age young men do you start working with?
Initially, we started ages 10 to 16, but what happened, we had a group of young men that actually graduated from high school on last year. and one of the young men was actually graduated magna cum laude. So when he went off to college, I thought we really don't want to lose him just because he's graduated from the program, so to speak. But so now we've moved it, the parameters going primarily from youth up until young adults. So we believe that the young men that are able to go off to school and go to college and receive their degrees will be excellent peers to come back and speak to our group and tell them how Mocha has been an impact in their lives. So I would say ages probably 10 up until young adulthood.
Yeah. And talk about how basketball, your career and your experience in basketball has helped frame or foundation the work that you're doing now in terms of mentoring and providing life skills to young boys, young men of color.
Well, I think there are obviously some transferable skills from playing sports. Obviously, hard work, working as a team,
Mhm.
understanding winning and losing. So primarily, after I left playing professionally as an athlete, I really didn't know what I was going to do. But thankfully, I did have a degree, business communications, to fall back on, and that gave me an opportunity to start a new career, second career, as many of yourself as an athlete. Once you finish playing ball, you just really kind of decide which area, what direction I'm going to go in. And so getting back into a collegiate campus like DePaul gave me an opportunity to still impact the student athletes that I came in contact with on a daily basis. And like I said, as a result of working on my master's degree, it spawned an opportunity where I really saw there was a niche to start an organization and to help some of our young African American males in the inner city. So it's just been very, very great for me to be able to have this opportunity. I don't think we really see the full impact that we're having with these young men at this point in time. But as they get older and as they matriculate into adulthood, I think I'm really hoping that the impact of Mocha is going to be very beneficial for them, and actually they'll be able to come back and share their stories of how impactful it was to their lives.
Yeah, excellent. Really applaud your efforts and the work that you're doing. And Ken, I see you shaking your head as Brother Lampley was speaking and sharing. You too have a heart for kids, being a teacher after you got done playing. Talk about the platform that you use or have been given through basketball and how that impacts or at least influences the work that you do now.
Well, uh, honestly, Clark, I love kids. I always have.
Hmm.
My one passion is Christ,
Yeah. Yeah.
and um, it's always been kids. Basketball for me has honestly been secondary. I was always tall. I was always tall. I never really truly loved sports, but I was tall, so I just prayed about it. I was always hounded to play sports, so
Mm.
I just tried it. I just believed that God would use me, and He has, and I'm just very very thankful and blessed to have had the opportunity to um, play at play at Ohio State and also the NBA and also Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about your passion. I mean, it's obvious that you have a great passion for Christ. Where did that come from? When did that start? Give us a sense of that journey for you, your spiritual journey, your relationship with Christ journey.
Well, to be honest with you, my grandmother raised me.
Mm.
She was a very very strong believer. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say that I was raised in a Christian home, um, but she loved Christ.
Mm.
We had a lot of issues growing up. We had a lot of issues. My mother wasn't there, father wasn't there, so it was really really tough. Just trying to find that place in in life. I always felt like I never really fit in,
Mm.
and so for for me, my only outlet was Christ. I was hungry at a very, very young age. I was always seeking some someone, or something
Hmm.
that would fill cracks in my life. And coming to uh, OSU, I was just this raw kid. I didn't know much about sports, didn't know much about ball. I was always talked about, laughed at. But I always believed that God would one day use me, and He
Hmm.
has, uh, and I'm just thankful for it.
Yeah, awesome, awesome, man. Great to hear. So, talk about the journey through sports. You came at it a little differently than at least most of us who have
Yes.
enjoyed some success and some longevity in the game through high school and college and the pros. So, that to me is interesting in that it seems as though it may have been by default for you, secondary for you. And if it was secondary, what, in addition to Christ and children, what was your other passion or passions, if you had any others?
Well, I actually started playing ball very, very late. I actually started at age 14, or maybe even 15. I was
Uh-huh.
about 6'10", age 15. So
Yeah.
um, for hold on for 1 second. So I believe that um, it was a very difficult journey. Um, I, I've just I've just always had these inner struggles with, I was always torn from, should I play ball? Do I have to do this, or do I pursue teaching or music and art? I'm an artist.
Hmm.
I've always loved art. I've always loved music. That's always been my passion. Um, Everything that I've done at Ohio State, I honestly can't take any credit for it. It was all him. Um,
Mm.
I honestly can't. I am truly just a broken person. I need God for everything in my life. I thank Him for even the smallest things.
Yeah.
After the trials and tests in Europe and uh, the NBA, having money to losing it, to being full, then being empty. I have really learned to just seek Him, and just praise Him for even the smallest things.
Yeah.
Running heat,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
my and I'm I'm honestly thankful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's obvious, and that's inspiring to hear. You guys all have spent time playing professionally in Europe, and that's a different type of experience. Can you share a little bit about how difficult that can be? Anthony, would you elaborate on that in terms of the challenge, and how did it perhaps grow you spiritually and professionally as you dealt with playing across the water?
Oh, it's definitely a challenge. Everybody, like you said, everybody here has played overseas, so they know what I'm saying. It's just a different environment. You're not home. You're not comfortable. You're not in a, sometimes not even in a safe place. I know guys
Mhm.
that are playing in Iraq and Iran and, in different places where their safety is at risk if they go down the wrong go into the wrong
Mhm.
area. Um, so yeah, I mean it's definitely a challenge. mostly mentally. I think basketball is going to be basketball for the most part wherever you go. Obviously there's different levels of talent and everything else, but mentally though, if you don't have uh, something to lean on. If you don't have your faith to lean on when you go overseas, it's definitely something that you can fall into a hole. You can
Mm-hmm.
really fall into a hole mentally and start uh, going down the wrong path. I mean, you get paid every couple weeks or every month or whatever, and you have this money and you have time and you have, even, I feel like even more so, you have more time over there than you do even,
Mm-hmm.
playing over here in the NBA or in wherever. So it's, you have a lot of temptation that it just comes your way that if you're not careful, you fall into that. But for me, spiritually, man, it really gave me a lot of time to learn who I was as a man.
Yeah.
It was obviously like college. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of different stuff about myself, and trying to figure out what I'm trying to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so busy with class and with everything else. College flew by. 4 years,
Yeah.
oh, it was over with, right? And
Yeah.
then now all of a sudden I'm playing pro and I'm overseas, and I get money, and I've never had money in my life, So,
Mm-hmm.
um, so it just, you really learn about yourself. It's like, okay, well, what's really important to me? Is it the money? Is that what I'm doing this for? Or am I doing this for something more than that? And is my purpose deeper than just making money? And so, for me, I immediately learned a lot about myself and why I was there. It wasn't about the money I was making or anything like that. It was about making relationships, work and learning about people, the locker rooms that I was in, making an impact, being a light to those guys in
Mm-hmm.
those locker rooms. And that's honestly, like you said, when you introduced me, I've been all over the place. I think I've
Mm-hmm.
played for a third of the NBA at this
Yeah.
point, in some way, shape, or form. So I've had upwards of 150 to 200 teammates over my career. So for me, I feel like God has moved me to these different locker rooms. Even every time I think, oh, I'm comfortable, every time I think I'm comfortable, every time I think I'm going to stay for a long time, God moves me, and God closes that door and opens another one. And so I really feel like that has become my purpose, my journey for this league is to spread my light, spread the light across
Yeah.
the NBA and every single locker room I've been in, turning light in some very dark spaces and planting seeds in these guys'
Mm-hmm.
hearts and
Mm-hmm.
minds to later on hopefully fester and grow and make an impact on a lot of people's lives. I mean, I have actually multiple stories of guys coming to me maybe a year or two later just saying how big of an impact I made on their life,
Wow.
and just by living the right way, just by being someone who's not afraid to, wear their faith on their sleeve and show that you can be at the highest level and be a man of God and be
Yes.
a man of faith. So
Yeah.
all of that, my whole journey, including playing overseas, has led to me being where I am today. And so it was an unbelievable experience for me.
Yeah, awesome. Well said and inspiring too. Um, Lamone, you and me are more in the same demographic age wise. So when you played overseas, it was perhaps a bit different than when Ken and Anthony played. But this is where I want to go with you in terms of practical advice or counsel in how you handle the battlefields of the mind as you're journeying through a pro career abroad? And then also, how does that guide and govern you in the work that you do now? Because we all are more than just what we do. It gets to what Anthony talked about in discovering and developing who we are and what our identity is with God in Christ. So speak to the practical things you try to do when you're navigating that road of being a pro abroad.
Well, my experience is probably similar to Ken and Anthony. I played over in Europe from 1986 to 1994, and those were pretty good times for me. I faced some difficulty, obviously, acclimating to a new country, a new language, a new culture, and I think those were some of the hardships that initially I faced as a professional athlete over in Europe. But as time went on, I honed my skills and got better. And as a result, I was able to play on some pretty good teams and establish some pretty good relationships with Italians, Spaniards, and things of that nature. In fact, actually, my firstborn daughter, Tatiana, she was born in Siena, Italy. So I have a lot of fond memories of playing over in Europe, and it was a blessing in me. I got to see a part of the world or different countries that more than likely I wouldn't have been able to see had I not been able to play over in Europe. So it was definitely a blessing for me. I came to know the Lord toward the end of my career. I remember coming home one day, coming home from, usually the season went from August to about May. And so I remember coming home and I was looking at some property and I was driving through the city of Chicago. And as I was driving through the city, something said, well, not something, God was saying, look outside, look at your surroundings. And as I was driving through the city of Chicago, I was seeing people out there gang banging, selling drugs, young ladies selling their bodies. God said, look at those people, look at those people. And I'm like, I see them, God. I see these people. And then God said something to me. He says, look, you're no better than any of those other people, but look how I have tremendously blessed your life. And man, I just started crying. I was in the car
Wow.
just crying. Tears was just coming down because I actually saw how my life was compared to what it could have been. And I know it was only by God's grace that allowed me to be in the situations that I was in, playing, making money, good money at the time, had a good family. And there's a scripture over in Romans, the second chapter says, knowest thou not that the goodness of God leadeth thee to repentance. And
Yes.
so that's what really had an impact on my life, seeing the
Mm.
goodness of God in my life as I was just traveling throughout the countries, throughout the world, and realizing my life could have been so much different than it was. And so I think that was really a turning point for me. And so I didn't actually give my life to God till I was 30. I was raised in a
Mm.
Christian home, but had no desire to serve God until God actually started to woo me toward Him and help me to see the benefits of living for God. And so
Mm.
I take it as an honor and a privilege to be a man of God. It hasn't been easy. There's been trials and tribulations, as Ken has
Sure.
spoke about, as Anthony has talked about, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure even you, Clark. I read a little bit about you. I know you're a man of God as well. So
Yeah.
I want to say one other thing. Bible says, "Give honor to whom honor is due." So I really enjoyed being on this panel with you, Clark. I think during the time when I was watching collegiate sports, there was Brent Musburger, there was Dick Enberg, and people like that. And then to finally see a man, an African American man, doing primetime collegiate basketball, that was very inspiring. And I know it was just, it
Mm.
wasn't for me, but also for a
Wow.
lot of young men that
Mm.
grew up seeing, people that didn't necessarily look like us call the game. So I want to give honor to you as well.
Man, I certainly appreciate that. Thank you. And it's Lamone.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, okay. I want to make sure I get the pronunciation right. I heard two different pronunciations, but certainly appreciate you sharing that. And right back to all of you guys, too, because one of the themes that's kind of permeated in each of your stories is this sense of gratitude, this sense of gratitude to God for what He's done and is doing in you guys and through you. So I want to kind of park there a little bit in terms of that sense of gratitude and how that motivates and drives each of you where you are now. So, Ken, let's go to you and just, if you would, speak to that sense of gratitude and how that's such a big part of who you are and also what you're doing now.
Wow. Well, Clark, I've honestly had a long journey. God has actually been there through every single step of the way. Where I am now is I am actually a salesman at Toyota West. I
Uh-huh.
am in a I am in a place that I would have never even dreamed of being. I don't even like cars. God has
Well, let's hear how you ended up where you man. Continue the story.
Well, honestly, man, that I make, God always changes it. So God is God and I'm not. So I have genuinely made plans every single year to do X, Y, and Z to have this amount of cash saved, but something always happened, and it has always brought me to the place where I was broken, and God seems to always bring me to my knees, and for me, that is a awesome place. That is a wonderful place. It actually keeps me connected to Him.
Yeah.
Um, because uh, once once things are well, I tend to fall off a little bit. I don't necessarily as much. So for for me, my personal medicine from God has always been pain. So and I thank for it though because it just keeps me close. It keeps me humble, and I don't know, it's
Well, the scriptures talk about suffering being part of the lot that belongs to those who are Christ followers. And that suffering can take on a lot of different dimensions and forms. And in each of our individual journeys, it manifests itself in different ways. And the ultimate byproduct of that journey of suffering or disappointment or discipline is that
discipline.
we become more like the Christ we follow. I
Yes,
like to
yes,
paraphrase it. This isn't biblical, but there's rain and sunshine that's required for us to grow. And clearly, sometimes the rain is a little more prevalent than the sunshine, but both impact our growth.
yes,
So you're right in the center of his will for you at this point in time. And the fact that you're grateful and humble and joyful is even more indication of your heart belonging to the Lord in my estimation.
So thank you so much.
Where are
You
you
know, and
living now, Ken? Where are you living now?
Columbus still here,
You're in
Grove City.
you're in Central Ohio, Grove City. Awesome. Awesome. Excellent. Anthony, pick up on the gratitude aspect of where you are. I mean, you've obviously expressed it, but uh, go a little deeper, if you will, as that impacts you being salt and light in the various locker rooms, and how the sense of gratitude is a motivational force in your life and journey.
Yeah, well, like my shirt says, I'm blessed.
Yeah.
It's something that I literally say to myself every single day. I pray every single morning and thank him for, like Lamone said, the little things, like Ken said, the little things.
Yeah.
That's what, to me, that's what it's become about. Like life has become about the little things. Ken, he's played in the NBA. Like he said, he's had money, he's lost it, and we've all heard that story before. And but you don't always hear the story after, right? And so
Mhm.
Ken's story after of him, thanking God for that journey and for everything he's been through, so that he can be where he is now in God's hands, is an
Mhm.
amazing testimony,
Yeah.
for him, and it really is an encouragement for me because, you know, I of course I'm in the middle of this thing. I'm still making great money, but every time I hear stories like that, it really humbles me and it really puts me in a place where, sometimes money can be very tricky,
Mhm.
and,
Mhm. Mhm.
and start to pull you away from God and pull your dependence away from God, and allow and hey, let's call it how it is. Money can become a god, if you're not careful. And so every time I hear stories like that, it just really encourages me. It really humbles me, and it really helps me in a deeper way. And so I'm grateful for this time with you guys to be able to just continue to be humbled and to continue to learn about other people's stories and how that can help me in the future. And just being grateful for, like you said, just the opportunity. Every single night that we play tomorrow night, the last game before All Star. Right before the game, you'll always catch me if you ever see a camera on me. My head is bowed, and I'm praying to God about just being grateful for another opportunity. I always pray that if this is my last game, this is my last game. This isn't something that defines me. This isn't my life. But it's something that I'm very grateful for, the opportunity to play a game for a living and to impact guys' lives on a daily basis in the locker room. And so, I mean, like we all said, I mean, it's definitely a blessing, and it's definitely a privilege. It's not something that I ever try and take for granted. So, just being grateful every day for this opportunity, but also for the little things in life to me, is the key to happiness, is the key to contentment, it's the key to staying humble. Because, like Ken said, I mean, it can all be gone. I mean, everything. One day I won't wake up. I won't be in the NBA anymore.
That's right.
One day, money could be gone, houses could be gone, things could, material things can be gone. There's no way, to really protect it. And obviously, you can't take it with you once you die anyway. So, like I said, it's just just a way. I just love hearing stories, hearing other people's testimonies, and it helps keep me humble, and helps me to realize that, hey, like, I need to use these tools and the platform that I have to build the kingdom, and not worry about trying to get more so I can get more cars or get more clothes or none of that stuff. And none of that stuff's really been important to me in the first place, but I just never ever want it to become the focus. And so, like I said, just having talks like this and opportunities like this has really helped keep me humble and keep me in place.
Yeah. Gratitude, Lamone. And then also stewardship, if you would. Give me some thoughts on your sense of gratitude and the stewardship of the life God has given you and how you see that and approach that.
Obviously, from the gratitude standpoint, it's a lot of things I'm grateful for. Obviously, health and strength, the opportunity to raise a family has been huge for me because I've been able to instill a lot of good principles into my children. My children, by the grace of God, they never heard me curse. They never seen me smoke. They never saw me drink. They never saw me slap my wife. They never saw any of that. And I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back, but I'm just saying, the power of God in my life has helped me to be at least the father and the husband that I've wanted to be. And so I'm grateful for that. The opportunity as far as stewardship, I think, being called to this position where I'm stewarding these young men and trying to mentor them and mold them and not just input godly principles into them, but also to teach them about life. I think it's a great calling, and I'm honored to be in this position. I mentioned the gentleman before, Steve Sarowitz, who's a Jewish guy actually, who has really been a great benefactor for Mocha, and I feel that I'm living a dream. So I really appreciate where I'm at. I thought when I was at DePaul I was going to become a coach. I thought I was going to be promoted to another position, but I believe that God has promoted me to a certain position, and that right now that main thrust, first and foremost, to be a family man, and then secondly to be able to mentor and help young men in African American communities. So I would say I can sum it up as far as gratitude and stewardship at this point.
Yeah, well said. Each of you guys have talked about the importance of relationships. First, your relationship with the Lord, and then with others. Talk about the importance of having other folks in your corner, in your circle, to help you grow and develop. The importance of not just being a mentor, but having mentors or others that you can look to. The benefit of our stories with one another is huge because it sharpens each other as iron sharpens iron. So one man can sharpen another. But talk about the importance of having other people in your life that can be encouragers, that can be sources of counsel and strength. Because I think any of the young people out there, it's important for them to recognize that you guys haven't gotten to where you've gotten on your own, nor have I. There have been not only the grace and goodness of God, but there have been some other key people that have been instrumental in our growth and journey and development. So, Anthony, I'll start with you, and then Ken, you can jump in after him, and then I'll let Lamone um, close that out.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, relationships to me, it comes down to, Bible says that, number one, love God with all your heart, right? And number two is what?
Love
Love
other,
your
yeah.
neighbor as you love
Bless all
yourself.
those people. That's right.
So
Yeah.
to me, um, he kept it pretty simple. If you want to break things down and really get to the core of what God wants us here for, it's to build relationships, it's to have relationships, it's to nurture relationships, it's to value relationships. And for me, like I said, being a journeyman in the NBA, being in different cities and living in different cities and being in different locker rooms, and it's not even just locker rooms, it's neighborhoods. I've developed
Mm-hmm.
great relationships with my neighbors. My neighbors just fed me a meal. My wife is gone for for the next couple of days. It's like but that just stuff like that, like
Yeah, yeah.
developing these relationships and impacting people's lives. I know that my story, yes, me having the platform, being an NBA player, has opened a lot of doors, right? It has opened a lot of people's eyes. It has broken down barriers that maybe would have been there if I wasn't an NBA player, right? The
Mm-hmm.
first day we were out in the front of the house, all the neighbors are coming out because they heard that there's an NBA player here, right? So now I'm talking to people, and now I'm able to learn about who they are and what they are and what they're about. And then I show them that I care about them as
Yes.
people. And
Yes.
it shocks people because they're like, wait, you're an NBA player. Why would you care about me? Why would you care about, what my life is like? I'm just a boring uh, restaurant owner, or I'm a boring teacher. I'm like, well, you're God's child, so I
Yeah.
love you, right? And so
Yes.
you're a person, so I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't, that it doesn't matter to me,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'm a normal person too. Yeah, I play
Yeah.
basketball, but it
Right.
doesn't make me less normal than you, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like God, not only uses me in my locker rooms to build relationships and to love on people, but he uses me in my environments and, like I said, my neighborhoods and different stuff like that. And it really, I've been able to use this platform to really build relationships, love on people,
Yeah.
and show people the love of Christ through my actions. And so
Yeah.
I swear, like my neighbor that fed me, I swear we're like in like a war of like, how much can I serve you and how much can you serve me? Like we go back and forth. And
Yeah.
how much can I do for you to make your life easier? And then they do the same for me. So, just doing that, and then not only that, you don't just do that, you do that and then you couple that with, hey, the reason why I'm doing this is because
Yeah.
God did it for me, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, once you can do that, I mean, I really feel like I'm impacting people's lives just
Mm-hmm.
by just by showing them love, just by
Yeah.
loving on them, just by developing relationships and showing people that we care. We can really impact lots of people's lives. Um, like I said, for me personally, um, all over the country. But even, obviously you guys are settling in and you guys are settled into different places.
Mm-hmm.
Your influence, what I know I didn't really talk about mentors at all, but I just really feel like I'm very passionate about relationship building
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
mentorship is a part of that, right? Of
Yes,
course,
no question. Yeah.
being a mentor, having mentors is a big part of that. But I'm just so passionate about just basic relationship building, then how much that can help you build the kingdom as an individual, but also how that can help others relationship with Christ as well.
Yeah. Well said, man. Keep on doing what you're doing. Ken, you mentioned your grandmother as a big influence. Anybody else come to mind in terms of that mentorship piece or friendship that's positively impacted you?
Well, I have another mom, and I always call her Mama Jones.
Hmm.
She's always praying for me. She is my prayer warrior.
Wow.
She is my absolute rock. I mean, I always know that she is praying for me, praying hard over me, covering me as
Yeah.
I wake up. I
Mm.
just think that everyone like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone needs that.
Hmm.
You know, just some cover you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, life is hard. Life
Yes.
is
Yes.
really, really hard.
Yeah.
I struggle every single day, and I'm just like, Lord, just keep me, strengthen me,
Hmm.
because and I'm struggling with thoughts and
Hmm.
just my attitude. I have to pray for even the smallest things. Just Lord, just give me the right heart today. Give
Hmm.
give give me patience, give me
Hmm.
peace, give me inner peace. Um, I always pray to be a light to other people. My my personal prayer is that Christ would always be seen in me. It
Hmm.
doesn't always come,
Hmm.
and I have to go to God, like, Lord, I am sorry,
Yeah.
I am really, really sorry. So Lord, I just pray that He would just mold me so I would look more like Him.
Hmm.
Um, it's a it's a struggle, but I mean, God is with me every
Yes.
single day. I just want to be a good example
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
others around me. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
for my
Well,
wife.
you're doing that. You're doing that. You're doing that, man. I'm not around you all the time, but just in this 45, 50 minutes, and I know your reputation precedes you, so folks know exactly where your heart is, where your head
All
is,
right.
and you're a blessing and an encouragement, bro. Lamone,
Thank you.
Yes, yes. I would say
mentorship in
people.
terms. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I would say obviously family is important. I was raised in a Christian home by my mom and dad was still alive today. Thank God for that.
Wow.
And
Amen.
then
Amen.
obviously peers, a friend of mine, Byron Williams, who's a VP at Exxon Mobil. He's been a great encouragement to me. A
Yeah.
guy named Tim Johnson, who I grew up with in the neighborhood, kept me on the straight and narrow. So there are a lot of people that God has permitted to come in and out of my life that have been a blessing to me to encourage me to continue on to do what I'm doing. And so that's been very helpful. Other than that, I just even raising a family, you learn from your children, and
Mm,
a lot of times you're thinking you're the parent, and they're teaching you some life
yeah.
lessons, about love, and when you see your children, a lot of times you see yourself, and it helps you to have that much more sympathy and understanding that they don't know everything, you didn't know everything, you still don't know everything, and so they help you to grow as well. So I think family and a few friends along the way has been a great source of encouragement for me in my journey.
Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes left or so. If you would, I'd love for you guys to tell me just a little bit tell our viewers and our listeners and watchers a little bit about your family. And then one practical piece of advice. It could be professional, personal, spiritual, that you would offer as a closing uh, tidbit for those that are are listening and watching, particularly perhaps aimed at the young folks that might be tuning in or may tune in later on. A little bit about your families, and then also a piece of advice, uh, practical, something that you do or know of being done that can help somebody out there that's listening. We've got about 4.5 minutes, so each of you guys have about a minute, minute and 10 seconds to put that together. And Lamont, I'm going to give you first crack at that.
Well, I think obviously, like I said, my family has been a great part of my life. I've been married to a wonderful woman. Her name is Angela, 28 years. And
Amen.
my children, Tatiana, she's 24, Elise, 22. And then I have Lamone Jr., he's 16. And
Okay.
they have been very beneficial in my life, helping me to mold me to be the person that I am. I would say for any young people that are out there pursuing their dreams, you're going to face some adversity, some struggles, but I would say stay with it. Always have a backup plan. I know a lot of people aspire to be professional athletes or rappers or entertainers, but along with that, you need to have a backup plan or a plan B. And I think part of that, for the most part, that's been very fruitful for me is being able to fall back on education. So
Education.
I would leave that there.
Yeah. Ken, why don't you take the next stab, and then Anthony, I'll let you close it.
All right. Well, I am on my second wife. She's a beautiful, beautiful lady. I have an 18-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old daughter, and a newborn son. Um, and it hasn't been easy, but God is working on us.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'll say for the kids, I would say read John 3:30, which says, "He must increase, but I must decrease." Basically, keep God first, place God first, and everything else falls in place.
Wow. Wow. Powerful. Good stuff. So they left you with a little more shot clock than I thought, Anthony. So floor is yours, man. Floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about your
Well, I'm
family and
not.
then a little piece of
Yeah,
advice.
yeah. I'm not gonna take the whole time, but yeah. So I've been married going on 7 years to everybody says their wife is beautiful, but my wife is definitely more beautiful. Jessica Tolliver. Been together seven. We've been together almost 13 years, but been married 7 years. Have my oldest son is 4. His name is Isaiah. My daughter's name is Lennox. She's 2, and my youngest son's name is Elijah, and he is 9 months. Actually, 10 months tomorrow. So, uh, side note, taking my
Well, I
oldest to
heard that
Disney.
right. Everybody's got 3 children.
Yeah, 3
That's
children.
correct.
Yep,
Yep.
That's how
3.
yep,
many I
yep,
have too.
yep. It's a
Share
good,
it in
God
the
good.
was
That's a
comments.
good number.
Yeah,
Good
Yes.
number. Good number.
God was up to something when he convened this foursome, man.
When it comes down to advice to really to anybody, but specifically to the younger crowd, I would just say honestly, just pick up your Bible, stay in the Word every single day. Even if it's for 3, 4, 5 minutes every
Yeah.
single day, do whatever you can. Even if it's one verse, just get some spiritual food in, because
Yes.
it's a daily battle, it's a daily struggle. So if you feed your spiritual man every single day, that will help build up your spiritual man. And if you leave him alone, if you don't pick up the Bible, even if it's a devotional or whatever,
Yeah.
have it sent to your phone. I know everybody has phones, so have it sent to your phone, your email every single day. Just read something and get something in your soul every single day, because you never know what God is going to say and
Yeah.
do through those devotionals and those words to help you through every single day life.
Man, what a treat to have a chance. Anthony, you and I have had a chance to visit, but having Lamone join us and Ken, great to hear your story. I watched you from a distance and was around a little bit when you were here, but just hearing your journey and your heart is really, really inspiring and encouraging, man. I
Yes.
just really appreciate you guys as men of God impacting your sphere of influence, taking domain, where he places you. And I trust that all of us will continue to do that with the grace and the power that God promises to his sons. So thank you guys for joining us. I've got a little business here before I close, but again, Lamone Lampley, Ken Johnson,
Pleasure.
Anthony
Pleasure.
Tolliver, wonderful to have you
Thank you so
guys
much.
hanging
Glad to
out
be a
with us
part of it.
tonight. So, folks, that'll conclude our BCI Courtside Live. And on behalf of BCI, I want to thank our three panelists, as I just did, for joining us this evening, and those of you in the viewing audience for your questions that we didn't have this time, but hopefully you got some good food for your own personal journeys. To watch archive CSL events, go to bciedge.org. That's bciedge.org. And be sure to check out bluejeans.com, who recently integrated with Facebook Live. Finally, a special thanks to AIA for partnering with BCI. On behalf of BCI, thank everybody. Be sure and follow BCI on Facebook and Twitter for info on our next CSL event, March 27th, from 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, just prior to the Final Four weekend. I'll be there for that one as well. So with that, good night, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Good
guys.
night.
Good night. Good
Have a
night.
good one.